The U.S. men's national team was able to defeat Mexico 3 times in a row in 2021 at home, including winning 2 trophies over them. But not just that. The United States was also able to export many young talented players abroad to top European leagues, unlike Mexico in that period of time. So, with that said, has U.S. soccer surpassed Mexican soccer? It's not that simple. It's a little complicated. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to another interview/video with Herc Gomez. Today, we will dive into the current state of MLS, Liga MX, and how that affects the U.S. men's national team and L3. So for this one, I will be counting with the return of Herc Gomez to the channel, former USMNT player and ESPN analyst. Also, he has a YouTube channel now. I put the link on the description, so subscribe to this channel as well. I'll also be counting with the help of Pete from 11 Yanks to do this whole discussion/analysis/debate. We might disagree on a few things. So sit back, relax, hit the like button if you haven't already. Go check out 11 Yanks too. We had another video with Herc in that channel, which was released before this one, so go check it out. Different topics. With that said, as I said, hit the like button, blah, blah, blah. Let's bring in Herc and Pete and start the episode. All right, everyone, welcome to Tactical Manager TV. Today we have a friend of the channel that's back and someone that keeps intruding into my channel here, Pete, all the time. So, Herc, welcome back, and how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys. How you guys doing?
How you, Pete?
I'm good. Can't complain. Life is good.
There you go. There you go.
Getting rid of the winter. It's already super warm here at Florida now. Overly hot.
Yeah,
But
same in LA.
today, what we want to go into here is this. The past year, the United States defeated Mexico 3 times in the United States. That is important to point out. It's also important to point out that certain games we probably weren't the best team throughout the match, even though we pulled the win. But along with that, I think what caught my attention the most was the fact that the United States has been having players playing for better clubs abroad, which doesn't mean anything unless they actually develop and everything comes up. So that raised some questions of, has U.S. soccer finally caught up or surpassed Mexico, or it's just this little moment, or they're in the same level? Which leads me to the first topic. Herc or Pete? I'll let Herc lead it, Pete, and then you'll contribute with whatever he says. MLS exports are rising, Herc. Liga MX, not so much. Probably maybe even less than what it used to be. Has U.S. soccer, the league as a whole, are they on the right track, and Liga MX are kind of like going backwards with this?
Liga MX is in a difficult moment right now. I would say in a fork in the road moment, a coming to Jesus type moment. They could either proceed with business as usual, and they can have a lot of success in these torneos de límite de edad, so these youth national team tournaments, right? Which they are a world power. Nobody could deny that. 2 U17 World Cups, constantly at the U17, U20 level in the semifinals, if not finals. 2 Olympic medals in the U23 level, 1 gold, 1 bronze. They're constantly in that conversation. They produce players like few countries, very technical players, very good players. They're very good at that. But these players get lost in that age from 18 to 22, 23 for an array of reasons. So they're in this coming to Jesus moment right now where, what do? Do we go status quo, business as usual, and concentrate on making ourselves strong internally? Or do we think global? Do we think the global market? Do we think we can be a participant in and start allowing these players to go at an earlier age and maybe try to keep up pace with what is, I won't even say MLS, I would say U.S. soccer, because you're seeing not just Major League Soccer, you're seeing players go from USL, you're seeing them go from the collegiate level, you're seeing them go from the club level. And Josh Sargent went from club soccer, to German football. So there's all these different avenues. Even Matthew Hoppe, who went from like the Barcelona academy, wasn't MLS academy, it wasn't club soccer, it was like Barcelona academy abroad. So Christian Pulisic. There's so many different avenues of getting to where you want to get to in this pyramid that U.S. soccer, where you're pretty much dependent on Liga MX if you're a Mexican player. Like, that is your avenue or your platform to even try to go abroad. And even then, you have to almost force your way out, like Orbelín Pineda did to Celta, like Tecatito Corona did when he was at Monterrey, to, I believe, Twente at the time in Holland. So U.S. soccer in general is doing a very good job. MLS is doing a great job because I think they're realizing the potential in the global market. But Liga MX, if they will allow themselves, if they will stop shooting themselves in the foot, there's going to be no stopping a factory of production like them. And that should be the worry for anybody on this side. Is right now it's a golden era that we're in U.S. soccer. But the moment that Mexico and its football realizes they don't need to limit themselves, handcuff themselves, and think the internal market, which is inflated, that moment it's all over. It's all over.
So I have a couple of thoughts. One is that recent exports from Mexico have not had success, right? Diego Lainez hasn't really found success at Betis. JJ Macias at Getafe, we haven't really seen him break out. The kid who went to Newcastle, is it possible that young Mexicans are or even Eugenio Pizzuto, they're looking at them and saying, hasn't really worked out for these guys. Maybe we should stick around here and make our payday instead of sit on the bench at a Spanish club or an English club.
Absolutely. That's actually one of the big talking points amongst pundits. There's a huge divide in Mexican football about why do you want to go and sit the bench? Why do you want to go and not play? It's better if you play here. They value the internal market. They value the league so much. They think it's better that you're playing day in, day out at a club like Chivas than trying to stay above water in a club like Getafe, trying to fight your way into Celta de Vigo. All those different factors that may be. But that's not the case because they don't realize what the rest of the world sees. The rest of the world sees Major League Soccer. They see Mexican soccer. It's just exotic to them as when we think about China, when we think about Qatar, when we think about Australia, those exotic locations for a footballer to play in. That's what they think about Major League Soccer or Mexican soccer. They don't realize that. They think Mexican soccer is a top 10 league in the world. That's a reality. There are a lot of pundits. There are a lot of people in this business.
Mexico, you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. In Mexico, in the States, that believe Liga MX is a top 10 league in the world.
There's people in the U.S. that think MLS is.
Well, those people are wrong. And I would argue that Liga MX is a lot better than Major League Soccer, but it's not top 10. It's probably in the around, 12, 13, 14, 15, depending on how you want to layer it up and cut it up. But they have a hard time believing a place like the Championship could be better than Liga MX because it's second division. They don't realize the amount of money that's in there. They don't realize that the platform they have. They don't realize, the overall play for certain teams may be lacking as far as the eye test quality. But when you're in that environment, it's a sink or swim, and every point matters. There's no promotion relegation anymore in Liga MX. So a lot has changed. So because of these things, they overvalue their internal market. So I agree with you. There is a growing sense of people, Pete, that would argue that why leave? One of the board members at Cruz Azul actually was chastising Mexican players for accepting less money to go play in places like Spain or in places in Europe when they could play here and make more money here, really chastising them how that hurts the Mexican player and how it hurts the market. It's a strange mentality that I don't understand, but many do partake in that opinion.
Herc, you brought up something here that I was going to talk about anyway, but I'm glad you brought it up. So I work here in Orlando with different guys that have been professional footballers or soccer players. See, you say football and you got football in my head here. So they're from Brazil and they played in Mexico. One was Marcelo Gonçalves. He played for Tecos. That used to be, right?
I played for Tecos.
You played too? He played.
Yeah.
Gonçalves played in the 90s and he played for the 98 Brazilian national team. And then today I was talking to another coworker here, Ailton, that played for Pumas in the 2000s. Maybe some Mexican fans remember Ailton. And they both said the same thing to me, that when Liga MX took away promotion relegation of what they had, it was a step back for them, in their opinion. So MLS is a little different because MLS was born with this. It's a little bit different. Whether we like or not promotion relegation or want it for the United States, MLS was born out of it. So it's not a step back for MLS. It's just how it was born. Liga MX wasn't like that. Do you agree that it's a step back? How much did it affect Mexican soccer?
Yeah, for Liga MX, it's a huge step back because you're limiting yourself as a nation towards its growth. Now, I understand their problems with solvents, financial solvents, and why they want to do things like that. If you have to count out the 18 ownership groups right now in Liga MX, there's a few multi-owned teams like Pachuca, León, Atlas, Santos. You probably only have reliable ownerships like maybe 8 or 10. That's a reality, and that's why they don't see it as a possibility. They have certain requirements, stadium requirements, certain requirements with ownerships of who can actually be promoted. And this was the case when they had promotion relegation and who could not. That was limiting the whole I guess premise of promotion relegation. It doesn't matter if you have a 1,500 seat stadium. If you're good enough, that's going to be a team that gets promoted, and they will play in a 2,000 seat stadium in the Primera, the Mexican Primera. That's not the case anymore. So you're setting a ceiling on where your talent can go to, on what your country can become. Now, whether you agree with it or not, that's the way, as you correctly stated, it's always been in Major League Soccer. It's always been in the States. So you could be a fan of United Soccer Leagues. You could be a fan of, NISA. You could be a fan of whatever other, football you may want to be in this country. But Major League Soccer is deemed the first division. And there is no change in that unless you want to buy into a place, 350 million plus or whatever the fees may be nowadays. You can't win your way. It's not something I necessarily believe in, but that's the way it is. For Mexican soccer, it's anti everything they've always believed in. It's anti everything that's always been great with the league. There's been plenty of cases of players getting their shot, ascending or winning the promotion into first division and making them names for themselves. Joe Corona was a product of, a U.S. soccer product in a way. He played Fuerzas Básicas with Cholos, but he went to school at, San Diego State, U.S. men's national team. Joe Corona won promotion with Cholos, Cholos Quincles of Tijuana. And that year that he won promotion, the following year, he was voted Rookie of the Year in Mexican football. So there are a bunch of stories like this where you're products of that environment, of being shaped by that promotion or that relegation. I've been in a relegation fight. It's not pleasant. It's saved at the last, day of the season. It builds character. Being there, realizing what life is on the other end of the spectrum. Listen, I played in a bunch of finals in my career. That was distinct. That was different. Knowing that you being relegated affects not just your financial well-being and your family's financial well-being, but the town you're representing, the team you're representing. If you're a second division team, the gardeners make less. The attendance at the stadium make less. Concessions are down considerably. Tickets go down. Sponsorships go down. The club takes a financial hit, and it's a whole community that is affected. These are factors that people don't realize when they talk about promotion relegation, and that a lot of that gets lost in what you can achieve if you're promoted. So you're putting a cap, just to put a bow on this, you're putting a cap on yourself as a footballing nation.
You're also capping competitiveness, right? The bottom, like we get teams like in MLS that don't want to invest, maybe the owners, or an FC Cincinnati, which they spend money, but they might not spend it the smartest way possible.
Correct.
I think the lack of, and again, not trying to bash MLS for that because they were born off of it, but you kind of protect the losers when you do that. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, it's funny because we talk about the draft gets celebrated, right? MLS draft is like a celebration. Can you think of any other country? Like if I had to equate what the MLS draft level is, or the collegiate level would be to another country, it's probably what, third, fourth division, Let's just say that. Let's
on Twitter. You put a poll.
Yeah,
what was the result?
I did. They thought it was around third division. So let's say it's around third division, okay? Could you imagine any other proper footballing nation celebrating its players in third division into a draft that's nationally televised, selling it, packaging it for sponsors, and then paying those first rounders more money than some of the players that already play in the first division? I mean, it's just a crazy concept. Never would happen. I'm not saying collegiate soccer doesn't have a place in the pyramid, the footballing pyramid in the United States, because Daryl Dike, Kai Kamara, Chris Wondolowski, you can go Maria players in Major League Soccer that have come out of the collegiate level and have been very good players. Clint Dempsey. There's a place for collegiate soccer, but you have to acknowledge as time goes on, the level gets diluted, and the best players already leave. So what you're doing is you're celebrating a certain range of players that no other country would celebrate in the hopes of selling the spectacle for marketing purposes. And Daryl Dike is a great story, and there's always going to be a Daryl Dike like there's a Podolski, like Jurgen Klinsmann found him in the second division, made the World Cup. There's always these, exceptions to the rules. It's just a kind of crazy, very American thing that, like you said, rewarding bad teams, mediocre teams. This is what the draft is, the intention of getting stronger. It's a very American type of way of thinking.
I would also argue that even a lot of the guys who came through the draft and who we consider success stories from a global perspective are technically quite limited. Like Daryl Dike, good guy, good player, and he also only spent 2 years in college, not 4 years. But even Daryl Dike has, I think, technical limitations that could be improved if he had been in an academy since he was 18.
Well, that goes back to the point. Like, people are like, always bring up Daryl Dike, always bring up this player. And I'm like, in spite of stalling your career at the collegiate level, he got to where he got to. Could you imagine if he was in a setup where he's got all these just natural tools and he's a very good instinctive player, and all of a sudden you're giving him more technical ability at a younger age, more competitiveness or an atmosphere at a younger age? Like, how much better these players can get. So I agree with what you're saying, but I go back to capping yourself or putting a ceiling on yourself as a footballing nation. These are things that come with it.
So moving on, not from the topic, because the overall is clearly we're showing the soccer environment of the U.S. and Mexico, which there's still many differences, but it looks like at the league level, again, whether we agree or not, the U.S. soccer structure seems like to be going on a better track than before, developing more players and increasing popularity, while Liga MX is to a best stagnant, or maybe even a little bit worse than they were before. That's kind of what it looks like, right?
And developing?
Yeah, I would say developing.
I wouldn't, Felipe, I wouldn't say developing. I would say exporting. That's what I would say, because I think they're very good at developing. I actually think they're head and shoulders above the States and Canada, MLS, in that sense.
But what I would ask you is this: so they're still developing as well as they've always had. Also,
yes,
to do a little bit with the popularity of the sport in the country, because it's so
correct.
Massive here, the culture. But if they don't export, those talents never reach their potential, right?
That's it. That's what it is. It's the exportation of. That's where they're lacking, because the development. I mean, you got to see. And when I was at Club Santos, I mean, we won a championship there. We played 3 finals, and I remember when Pedro Caixinha came in, and he's back there right now at Santos. They're struggling, but that's another story. But I remember when he came in, first team, the U20s, the U17s, the U15s, 13s, they played the way as the first team. And there was such a just professional environment of, if the U17s needed a player, they bring him up from the U15s, and I need a left winger. It was like, well, bring in the left winger, and he'd already know what to do in said system. And it was the same thing for the first team. It's just such a distinct pathway. It was so professional, so organized, so just clear. They're very good at developing these players. Technically, some of the best in the world, and I'm not kidding. They're machines. Tactically, very intelligent. They're getting stronger physically, mentally. I think what they're lacking is the willingness, some players, to go abroad, and the willingness by definitely las directivas, these boards, to sell them. When you're a Mexican player, I'll give you the case of Alexis Vega. Alexis Vega scored 0 goals last year. He was very good for the Mexican national team in the U23 at the Olympics. Okay, he was better than Diego Lainez. He was by far the best player, better than anybody there. He's such a good player. 0 goals last year. I know he had a little bit of an injury, but this is a player that's already making over $1 million net. He must be like 22 years old. This season, heading into this season, Chivas is still trying to retain him. Monterrey is offering him 3 times his salary, so that's over $3 million net to go to Monterrey. That's the internal market. If They sell him. Pizarro at 26 years old, they wanted 20 million for him, and they were asking 20 million for La Liga teams. Rodolfo Pizarro, who ended up going to Inter Miami. Could you imagine trying to purchase him if you're a European team and then saying, wait a second, I got to pay this guy more than 3 million net to come, and he's not even a mainstay on the national team? It's just such an inflated market that there's no incentive for these teams to sell. And then Alexis Vega, 22 years old, your life changes with that amount of money. So that's got to weigh on him. He's got to really take that in consideration. You could say whatever you want about, he's got to think about transcending. He's got to think about being this type of player. It's nurture versus comfort. It's like, or necessity, nurture versus necessity. When you're in an environment like the States and you've got collegiate soccer and you got club soccer, and it's a very Anglo-rich sport to begin with, kids play because they enjoy it, not because they need to play to make a better life for themselves. In a country like Mexico, you need to play because it's a better life for yourself. In a country like Brazil, you need to play to get out of the favelas. That's what you got to do. So when you come from a certain, I guess, of means or not, and then get thrown that kind of money, it's got to weigh on you. And it's a huge decision. So these are factors to why sometimes players don't go. And I understand it. I'm not going to sit here and tell somebody who's 22 years old that can change for life, his life and his family's, take care of them for life if he's being thrown this type of money. So it's a predicament that Mexican soccer is in today.
So, yeah, and just to add to that, it's very easy for me to understand what you're saying here, because it's the exact same in Brazil, right? These players are fighting to get out of the favela to feed their family, and they're competing with major talent, major technical players. I remember David Kerr was talking to me once on Twitter. He's the head scout of the youth academy of Columbus Crew. He went for like tryouts in Botafogo, and he was saying how these kids are just like hungry for the ball. It's a different beast you're facing.
Yeah.
But Herc and Pete, I want to move on from the second topic, which is the last one here of this video specifically, since we talked. And I think, Pete, this is one you can come in with Herc. I'm going to let you guys talk about it a little bit more. Yeah, I'm just going to put the overall topic. Mexico were undeniably the top dogs of CONCACAF for decades, and even recently. Undeniable. There was no questions. Now we have Canada topping the Ocho and play very well. I personally don't think they're the top dogs of CONCACAF. I think they're just well coached right now.
You hate Canadians, Filippo.
Oh, they're rude, man. They're rude. But they don't even they've been on my DMs and my Twitter ever since that prediction of the 2-point. I can't even talk about that. But they have players that can put the ball in the back of the net. They have the best player in CONCACAF, which is Davies. Jonathan David can put the ball in the back of the net, something we don't have in Mexico.
Kyle Laren, Estacio. They've got some good players.
And a coach that knows his team very
well. John
well.
Herdman. Yeah.
Now, I still think in terms of depth, talent, the United States are the two teams that everyone will be looking up to. Whether we like the coaching staff, the federation's a mess, the league, whatever it is, I think they have more of that. But here's my question. It's no longer Mexico's the top dog, no questions asked. Right now, there's a debate. If you're American, you believe the U.S. is the top dog. If you're Mexican, you still think they're the top dog.
Right.
My question to both of you is one of them clear? Is one of them the top dog? And if yes, why do you believe that?
Can I just push back on your statement first? I don't think Mexico has been clearly the top dog in CONCACAF for decades.
No, not decades.
We topped the Hex in 2006, 2010, and 2014. Okay? Maybe, and we would swap gold cups. Every 2 years, be like Mexico, US, Mexico, US. I'm not sure they were the top dogs. I think it was very close up until about 2015 when we were going down, and then Mexico was way ahead of us.
How did we beat them every time we beat them?
Doesn't matter.
No. But I understand that.
It's not just beating them.
Well, but in that case, Canada is the best one right now.
Right now, yes.
Well, no, but I'm not. There's a difference between being the best team and being the top dog. So the U.S. and Mexico had more talent than us. That's what I meant by top dog. Right now, if we're gonna say top dog, it's Canada.
So I agree with what you're saying, and I think of it this way: 2002, the reason the U.S. didn't win that is because they bottled that Hex. They actually had like a 13-point. They were like 13 points out of the first 15 points in the Hex, and then they barely got over the hump in the second half. They had something like 4 points out of the last whatever points available. It was ridiculous. Really, they should have won that hex as well. I think the only one they didn't win was the 2014, where it was Mexico. It's literally been that type of dominance for the U.S. men's national team in World Cup qualifying, but not necessarily in trophies. And I agree with Pete in the sense that you saw this overall domination of Mexico over the region, over the United States men's national team, up until the early 2000s. And then you see a shift. It's the Bruce Arena, and then it's the Bob Bradley era. It's Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey. It's all those guys. And there's a clear shift. And Mexico had Osvaldo Sanchez. They had all these players, Rafa Marquez in the middle of this, and they felt that shift. I've been their teammates with these guys in Mexico, and they hold a certain type of spite for the U.S. men's national team that I don't think the current crop holds, because they didn't get to lose. Maybe this current crop is starting to get that, because they didn't get to lose to the U.S. men's national team the way that other predecessors had. Now, today, you could say that the best team has to be Canada, because they've proven it on the field. They're undefeated. They go home and away, and they put it on you. They've got the best coach in CONCACAF. They got the best striker in CONCACAF. They got the best player in CONCACAF. And they're punching above their weight class. That's the reality. I think they're punching above their weight class. But does that mean they're the best footballing nation? Are they top dog? No, I don't think it means that. I think we're heading into this era where there's no clear defined top dog, but the top target, the team with the biggest target on its back, is the United States men's national team. There's a certain type of feeling amongst CONCACAF that, oh, wait a second, you sent another American abroad? Oh, you guys think you're cool? Oh, another Champions League player? Well, wait till you come to San Pedro Sula. Wait till you come to, San Jose. Wait till you come to El Estadio Azteca. We're going to show you who we are. We're going to bring you back down to earth. There seems to be this desire by the majority of CONCACAF teams to show the U.S. men's national team that they're not as good as they think. So that tells me something. That tells me of where the attention has shifted to in CONCACAF.
Which used to be Mexico. That was my
Of course.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Yes.
because even when the U.S. would play Mexico, we beat them many times. It was from the 2000s to now. I think actually the record even favors the U.S. more, if I'm not mistaken. Right, Pete? I think so.
I believe so.
So I think overall record, yes. So yeah, we've definitely balanced it out. But we usually would go into the game as the underdog. Let's grind out this win. This team
Correct.
is more talented.
Sure.
Now it changed. Now we're like, hey, the talent right here, we're even. We're gonna.
But that's what Canada's doing now. Canada's doing what the U.S. did for years: absorb pressure, hit you on the counter with 2 or 3 very talented players, and it works.
Canada's playing the way that my generation played. My U.S. men's national team, the national team with Landon, DeMarcus, Clint Dempsey, the national team with Gooch, the national team with Jay DeMeritt, the national team, that was very spirited, that was very physically adapt, that was very, I'd say, technically had a few players that could really, really hurt you. That's the way they're playing. It's a great comparison. I just think, you mentioned, Filippo, about how well the U.S. men's national team is doing. Caveat there. At home, and this is huge, all those victories versus any team you would like to at home. It's very different for a young team to go into the friendly confines in your backyard with a pro U.S. men's national team crowd, where things are hunky-dory, where you're having fun, to go into an environment where it can be hostile. They're not used to it. You saw the first game in Cuscatlán in El Salvador. Gio Reyna got scared because they shot a cannon. It's a daunting kind of experience at first, and you've got to go through it. And I know it's simple to. I remember being on here with you guys after that happened, and there's a difference between pain and CONCACAF. There's a difference between knowing, like, hey, I can't play the same way. Like Conrad de la Fuente.
Can I add one thing to that, since you mentioned it while we're almost wrapping up this video? What I've noticed, what hurts the United States is this. So playing in CONMEBOL and CONCACAF is very tough away, right? You go play in Bolivia, go play Venezuela, Argentina, and La Bombonera. It's insane, just like in CONCACAF, or even worse. But what I noticed is, from my Brazilian side, is the Brazilian players are accustomed to it because they play the Libertadores. So when they go to the national team to play in Argentina, we played here. They don't feel it. That's why you don't see in Brazil excuses away. In the U.S., our players, the CONCACAF Champions League, well, a lot of them don't even play the CONCACAF Champions League for starters, right? They're in Europe. They never play it. And the ones that do play it, it's not the same, right? Maybe you'll get some experience of the Mexican side, but a lot of our players don't play that. I think maybe we would have benefited if CONCACAF had a better club system or club competition where our players could get that experience.
Or we could just stop hosting every Gold Cup in the United States.
That would help.
Around.
Well,
but I know it's all about money.
That's got less to do with U.S. soccer, more to do with CONCACAF. That's when you maximize your growth potential there financially. But yeah, that's a huge reason why. Are you going to get that? No. Do you want that? Probably not, because that means you're keeping your best players here to play CONCACAF.
Well, no, at age 18, though. Like Neymar. Neymar played Libertadores at age 18, 19.
But Libertadores is probably the second best international club competition on the face of the earth, right? Like, you want Giovanni Reina.
Used to benefit from.
Right. What you want, exactly. And there's a reason they're not in there as well, because they don't want to, give more of the pie than they should to CONMEBOL, which makes sense. But you don't want to cap your players like Giovanni Reina, like Joe Scally to play in CONCACAF Champions. You get them to the Bundesliga as fast as possible. Get them to Europe as fast as possible. So I get what you're saying. It's just one of those where it's ideal for Brazil. I don't know if it'd be ideal for the United States men's national team or the program.
So I would also argue that the mentality is very different. Like, look at Canada. Yeah, we know CONCACAF is playing away is hard. But John Herdman gets a draw with Mexico and is upset that he felt they should have gotten the win. If we get a draw in Azteca, we're going to be praised by our media. Everyone's going to say, "What a fantastic
Berhalter record, yay!" His show.
Well, it's like, I think it's a mentality. I really do. I just don't think that we should go scared of CONCACAF anymore.
Like, yeah, I'll tell you what, Pete. I think John Herdman is reacting to the circumstances of said game because they had an opportunity to win that game.
Sure.
But I still think he respects where they are and how difficult it is. I've played in that stadium. I've played against Mexico. I've won in that stadium against Mexico. We won in 2013, I believe it was, a friendly there. And there are no friendlies. And we won there. I know what it takes. It's not easy. And there's a reason the record is so bad. So these places, like, this window is scary, and I can't put that into terms. People don't realize like how difficult of a window this is. If you don't get a result, and by result I mean a draw at least in Mexico, that turns the game in Orlando against Panama a must-win to go to the World Cup, because you're certainly not banking on a win in Costa Rica. I don't care how bad Costa Rica has been. San Jose is the boogeyman for the U.S. men's national team. We could say all these stars here, all this there, but are you really going to leave it up to chance like you did against Trinidad and Tobago Cova? Is that really where we want to get to? This would be a must-win in Orlando. Like, I'm not kidding. Futbol Americas would be in Orlando if that's the case, because this is a must-win. If they don't win, it's over.
I'll see you here.
Well, we'll see you there.
But everyone, we're going to have to end the episode here for this one. We are also having an episode at Pete's channel. Probably by the time this one's out, the one in Pete's channel is already out. Before we go, a quick answer from both of you. Pete, who's the top dog of CONCACAF, or is there none?
Right now, it's Canada.
The top dog, not the best team in the moment. I mean,
well, define top dog. What does top dog mean?
What me and Herc were talking about. Top dog is the team that people want to, the team everyone wants to beat, in the sense of.
Well, then, yeah, in that sense, you're right. The United States.
Like, for example, in the Premier League, Manchester City might not be the best team at one point. Might be Liverpool, but Manchester City is that team, the rich team that has the most talented. Herc, is there a top dog in CONCACAF? Because it seemed like you thought that it's not clear right now.
I don't think it's clear. I think it's Smurfs arguing amongst themselves of who's the tallest, Yeah. So it's what it is.
All right, everyone. Herc, thank you once again for being here, guys. Go check out 11 Yanks. Herc has a YouTube channel too, Herc Gomez, that he posts great clips from Futbol Americas.
Yes,
and again,
sir.
As we've endorsed here.
Futbol Americas too.
Yes,
check
out Futbol
I'm trying to get on your level on YouTube.
I think you're getting more views, dude.
I think so.
Keep it coming.
Guys, I'll put their links on the description. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Have a great day.